Very good evening to you with a Saturday, August 24th edition of CBC News Night. I'm Ryan Broom in our top story. Barbados and Trinidad have signed a deal to formally establish cooperation between the two countries' offshore energy exploration sectors. The memoranda of understanding were signed by Barbados' Energy Minister Wilfred Abrams and his Trinidadian counterpart, Senator Franklin Kahn. We hear more in this report.
The agreement comes after the parties held high-level discussions late last year. The two countries have been cooperating in energy matters from as early as 1982, when Trinidad agreed to take 100% of the crude oil produced by Barbados. In return, Barbados purchased the refined product of the same value. Noting the Twin Island Republic has more than 100 years' experience in oil and gas, Prime Minister Motley says government felt that if Barbados attempted to build out its energy exploration sector alone, it would probably take decades.
But that if we worked cooperatively with our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago, as we have been doing in the energy sector for more than almost 40 years, that we can continue, therefore, to work in a way that allows Trinidad and Tobago to get the widest economies of scale that it can possibly get for its industrial complex, but at the same time allowing us to monetize what we have, recognizing that on our own island of 166 square miles, the ability to move into heavy industrial development, manufacturing of fertilizer and ammonia, or an LNG plant may not necessarily be the most appropriate models of development given our structure for how we have developed as a nation onshore.
Offshore exploration by the two countries has been complicated by overlapping claims to the underwater area between them. Under the agreement, the two countries will act as one when negotiating with third parties interested in investing in energy exploration off the shores of either country. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says in recent years, exploratory drilling of wells near his country's border with Barbados has been successful. It's therefore believed there is significant potential in this area.
So the positives on the Trinidad and Tobago side automatically attract a certain level of interest on the Barbados side. But that would be stymied by the market conditions as to where would any find on the Barbados side go. Because if you do find hydrocarbons, particularly gas, from the formations offshore, for it to be invested in any big and serious way, there has to be a way to monetize it, to bring it to market. And that market, common sense would say that market is in Trinidad and Tobago, because our offshore infrastructure coming so close to Barbados as it would to bring the Trinidad gas to market would give the Barbados acreage an attraction that other acreage around wouldn't have, because you are close to the infrastructure that takes the gas to market.
The only binding feature of the agreement relates to confidentiality of data. Prime Minister Motley says it will pave the way for young energy professionals who are in short supply in Barbados to not only collaborate with their peers, but also offer their services in Trinidad and Tobago. Sean Farrell, CBC News.
Thanks, Sean. Well, now we're also hearing that the two countries have been exploring working together in the area of fisheries. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says when the parties met on Saturday, they discussed sharing products in the marketplace and investment in the industry.
Mindful of the fact that cooperation between Barbados fishing interests and Tobago and Trinidad, and notice I say Tobago and Trinidad, not Trinidad and Tobago, because this is of particular interest to the people of Tobago, who are our closest neighbor, Barbados here. And we can find ways to cooperate in such a way that there are benefits to be had by all, and that the market, both the local market receiving the product and the international market, could be attractive to both to investors from Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados.
However, Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley says cooperation for fishing will take a different shape when the CSME is fully functioning. She says if Barbadian and Tobagonian enterprises can create an industrial-sized fishing complex, territorial boundary issues will be a thing of the past.
There have been no incidents in recent years, but I also, like you, agree that we need to root our citizens in the investment framework for the future. And that is going to mean that they can exercise their rights to establish businesses in Tobago and to be able to move from Tobago with Tobagonians also coming into Barbados, because that's what the CSME is about. And the fact that whether the fish are below the line or above the line ought not therefore to matter, because we have joint enterprises in both countries that can benefit from it.
If you'd like to see and hear more on this major story, you can join us at 8:03 on CBC TV 8 for a detailed package on the signing of that energy cooperation agreement between Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago. Well, other major news tonight: what was Tropical Depression number 5 at 11 a.m. today was upgraded to Tropical Storm Dorian at 5 p.m. this afternoon. According to the Barbados Met Services Department, at 5, the system had progressed to near 10.7 degrees north and 49.1 degrees west. Maximum sustained winds were near 14 miles per hour, with movement towards the west at 12 miles per hour. This puts the center of the system some 725 miles east-southeast of Barbados. A general westward motion is expected to continue tonight, with a turn toward the west-northwest by tomorrow, Sunday. On its present track, the center of the system is expected to pass about 50 miles to the north of Barbados early Tuesday morning as a strong tropical storm. Now, further strengthening is forecast as the system moves into the eastern Caribbean Sea on Tuesday afternoon. Barbados Met Services will continue to closely monitor the progress of this system, and it may become necessary to issue a tropical storm watch within the next 12 hours. And of course, we will have more details on that system later in the weather news with our Carrie-Ann O'Neill. Barbadian artists have been lauded for bringing unique but effective pieces that capture the essence of Barbados' culture. Those have been some of the reactions from visitors at the National Museum and Art Gallery and the country booth, which have been mounted for Carifesta 14.
Response to the work has been fantastic. People have been struck by the pieces and how different they are, and this, quite honestly, is I have curated all of Barbados' representations at Carifesta from 2003 when I joined the staff of the National Cultural Foundation in 2002. And in all of those exhibitions, because I really can only speak about those, in all of those exhibitions, the art from Barbados has always stood out, and people have always commented on how very different it is.
We had the Minister of Trade passing through and purchasing a handbag from Mr. John Watson, the extraordinaire, and that in itself was an exciting and wonderful feat. We also have been making other sales in other product lines from Mr. Hamilton Wiltshire. He has an exquisite line and a beautifully produced line of monkey jars, which the Trinidadians have been exposing to us that the name were goblets. And obviously the similarities is that they were used to store water and keep the water very, 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 very cool. But Hami has taken that to another level in terms of embellishing it with wonderful designs and in terms of firing it with our wonderful terracotta clay. They even had a gentleman, a wonderful and even funny experience. He came to the booth 4 or 5 times before he made up his mind about the purchase, and we had to close that deal over a period of 4 days. And then he said, you know what, Rodney, I have the monkey now in my house and it is lacking something. I now need something to complement it and give it company. So he came back now for a folio from Mr. John Watson, and this man is so happy now.
Well, some temporary nurses have not been paid for 5 months in some cases. The Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, says it's a troubling issue that is actively being dealt with across different departments.
There's some systemic issues that are not related entirely or only to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This is across the public service. And they will say to you, it's not even only the temporary nurses. We have doctors in our system, in the polyclinics, in the ministry itself. Some of my senior medical officers have not had gratuities for 10 years in some instances. That is what I found. The temporary nurses, there's an issue with the public administration which has to be sorted out.
The Minister Bostic adds that it's an issue he feels very passionately about.
I've never been in a position where I've worked for 4 or 5 months and at the end not having any pay, not knowing where you're going to buy your food from, or how the children will be supported. I have never been in that position. And I can only imagine what those persons are experiencing. And it is something that, along with the staff in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I am not going to give up on until we have that matter resolved. It has to be dealt with between the ministry and the public service, the Ministry of the Public Service. It has to do with the smart stream system and people with names dropping off the system. It has to do with appraisals and all sorts of things.
Get involved in various activities at the Cave Hill campus. That's the advice which was given to thousands of new undergraduate students during yesterday's orientation session. Many local, regional, and international students told us they are glad to be at the university and they are happy about this new phase of their educational journey.
I chose Cave Hill because of the diversity. Back home, we're from South America. So on Cave Hill, you have students from St. Lucia, the Grenadines. It's really great, and I felt like it would really open up my space because I'd have a taste of the different cultures. I'm studying law here at UWI.
I'll be studying physics with medical electronics because I like physics and I also want to be a part of the medical field. However, I don't like being in a white coat, so to speak. So it was like, okay, I still want to do something with med. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is the perfect thing for me to do.
I'll be studying management with a concentration in marketing. I'm very interested in marketing, like advertising, graphics, that sort of stuff. So I feel like marketing would be a good path for me to go into. And also there are a lot of job opportunities. Everyone needs a marketing person.
I am studying accounting and finance. Well, that combination so that I can pretty much be a professional business person one day, probably own my own company or make the hierarchy to be my own CEO one day.
I feel like accounting is a good degree to have. It's a skill that is always in demand. There's a lot of opportunity for accountants out there.
A man who long regarded himself as one of the most patriotic people in Barbados has passed away. Environmental activist and once noted distance swimmer Julian has died at the age of 66. Hunt, who was well known for attending major cricket matches and national events, often bedecked in blue and gold and carrying the Barbados flag, passed away at his home on Thursday, a day after returning home from hospital. Among other exploits, Hunt once famously managed to swim around Barbados back in 1992 in 2 attempts, and despite being stung by jellyfish. He was also a regular contributor to radio call-in programs over the years, mostly on environmental issues. Mr. Hunt leaves to mourn his wife of 20 years, Anne. We do also extend our condolences to the family.